It's Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're covering on today's episode of the show. With so many rapidly developing events happening all the time, a lot of us turn to Twitter to both voice opinions and get up-to-date news. However, a new study is about to light the power of the bots. And we've also got some great guests on the show today, including Sherrell Dorsey, who is the founder of The Plug, which provides in-depth reporting and analysis on the black innovation economy. And we'll take a look at some of the newest security cameras available for your home and walk through some of the most important factors you should consider with our smart home editor, John Velasco. And with all of the film festivals shut down in person, a truly unique opportunity to attend a whole lot of them virtually has arisen with We Are One, and we'll be joined by Tribeca Film Festival director, Cara Cusimano, to tell us all about it. All of that and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Yes, hello everyone, this is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. And we're broadcasting live on a number of platforms, so hit subscribe on whatever one you are on, and then you can join in the conversations we get to have. And let's get that started right now with some of the trending news that everybody is talking about. And of course, we all know about what's been going on over the last few days, let alone several months, but certainly Twitter is somewhere that we turn to for both voicing opinions and gathering information. It's a really useful resource for that. However, bots are something we've all known that have been an issue on there, and there's a new report that in particular surrounding Black Lives Matter and the protests involving that, there have been some really shocking statistics come out about how many bots are being used. So what they're saying is, this is from a study from Carnegie Mellon University, and Kathleen Carley is a professor of computer science there, who was in charge of this study. And the study is showcasing that 30 to 49% of people tweeting about the protests might be bots at any given time. So this is an association with the protests that have been happening. 30 to 49%. That is a shocking number of people. So this is based on the last 5 days of study in which she said she saw 625,375 tweets, 413,900 users that qualified as suspected inauthentic activity. There's a lot of numbers and statistics that come out of that that she analyzes, and we've got details about this at digitaltrends.com. But the bottom line is this. There are a lot of accounts out there that are being created to help influence or direct people one way or another, and it happens across parties and spectrums, and what the goal is of a lot of these organizations, we don't know. But they are definitely spreading misinformation, and these bots are posting things. They highlighted some specific things that happened in DC that were just apparently blatantly false information that once it gets out there, it goes viral, it starts trending, people retweet it without paying attention to where it's coming from originally. And I know that is hard to do, but I think the bottom line is the important thing is when you are finding information online, when you're retweeting a random account that maybe isn't verified or you don't know where it's coming from, double check and make sure, because it looks like there's a good chance it could be a bot, or maybe it's a person retweeting information from a bot. But it's pretty shocking how much is on there. And that's what we've got so far just on that story. That's kind of a developing one as well. We've got more information at digitaltrends.com, but I just wanted to make you aware of that there's certainly a lot of activity surrounding these recent protests. Continuing on here with trending news, just to keep you up to date with what is going on in the world. Let's talk about Zoom. A lot of people have adopted Zoom over the last few months, especially since the pandemic started, and Zoom announced some of the results of that for their last quarter here, and no big surprise, they made a lot of money. Apparently they raked in about $328 million, which is more than double from the same period last year. But with that, there's some other announcements that have come. So certainly Zoom has had some issues when it comes to security, and we all know what Zoom bombing is, a term that nobody knew probably before the start of this year, or maybe it didn't even exist, but now it does, Zoom bombing. And that's a concern that the company has really had. And so they've been talking about how they're going to end up with end-to-end encryption and encrypting everything, but free users aren't going to get that. And that comes from the CEO, Eric Yuan, who said this and told investors that they are not going to have end-to-end encryption. The transmission will be encrypted, but when you get to the users, that will not be encrypted because they want to work with the FBI and local law enforcement to help track down people who are Zoom bombing and harassing. So they want to work with law enforcement, and so they have to have these unencrypted, and that is how they stated this. There's some more details that go along with this. It's for the paid accounts, those are going to end up having end-to-end encryption. They did say that they don't proactively monitor content in meetings and will not in the future. Zoom does not record meetings silently. Neither of these will change, is what one of their representatives wrote in a tweet. But yeah, that is one of the things that Zoom announced. So end-to-end encryption is not something you're probably going to be seeing with your Zoom account if you're using one of the free ones. There are different tiers where you can pay, and then that works a little bit different there. But that's what they said. They're working with the FBI and law enforcement to help stop that. You can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. Let's get through here talking about some other trending news. Let's talk about Amazon. A lot of people buying from Amazon, but third-party sellers are in need of a bit of a boost, and that is what supposedly is the basis for Amazon's sale. It's going to be coming up later this year, or later this month, excuse me. So this is according to CNBC, who said that they saw an internal document about the initiative, that Amazon is planning a one-off, quote, fashion summer sale event. Now, the fashion side could mean it actually is around fashion, or that could just be one facet of it. But the event is allegedly set to start on June 22nd, and they want to use it to drive excitement and jumpstart sales, particularly for the third-party sellers that are on the site, to help provide relief and get some more sales to them, because a lot of those were kind of stopped during the pandemic in order to prioritize different things, and their sales went down, and they weren't able to ship out things. So this is something they're looking to do. They said that the sales event will likely last between 7 and 10 days and offer discounts of at least 30% on select items. The current working title of it is Biggest Sale in the Sky. Again, this is according to the CNBC report, so something else to follow up with right there. But we could be seeing a sale coming from Amazon later this month, and that would help a lot of the third-party sellers, which are a lot of people, and small businesses included, on that site. But that's what we have so far. You can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on here with our trending news, Google is about to get sued for a lot of money. $5 billion, actually. And this has to do with incognito mode. If you're a Chrome user, you know what incognito mode is. It's where you can pull it up, and supposedly it makes it seem as though nobody can track anything you're doing, that it's completely private and doesn't store any cookies on your computer. But that's not really the case. And so this lawsuit comes around the idea that it claims Google's incognito mode offers users the false impression that their internet use would not be intercepted, and intentionally deceives them into believing they retain control of their browsing information. So it's from 3 Google users based in LA and Florida who seek damages for millions of users of $5,000, or 3 times actual damages, whichever is greater. So that's where they're getting the $5 billion fund from. They said that Google tracks and collects consumer browsing history and other web activity data, no matter what safeguards consumers undertake to protect their data privacy. And Google has, of course, come out and said that this is not the thing. They said they give you the choice to browse the internet without your activity being saved to your browser or device. As we clearly state, each time you open a new incognito tab, websites might be able to collect information about your browsing activity during your session. So they're saying, hey, we say it every time that you open one up. But definitely, it's a big dollar amount. $5 billion is a big dollar amount. Google's certainly going to be fighting this very much so, but we do have more information, again, that you can read about at digitaltrends.com, so just be aware. Incognito mode doesn't necessarily mean that nobody can track anything you're doing on there. Continuing on here, just giving you some trending news, and we've got lots of great interviews coming up here on the show. Some news that I know a lot of people are interested in when it comes to retro gaming. Sega has announced that they are going to be releasing a micro Game Gear in 4 colors with 16 games, but it's 4 different ones with 4 games on each one. So if you don't know what this is, this was essentially Sega's competitor to the Game Boy, to Nintendo's Game Boy, and it never got quite as popular as that, but this is something they're putting out. So they're Game Gear Micros. Now they're starting out in Japan, is where they're releasing first, and we don't have the news on when they're going to be released to North America or any other place, but I would imagine they will. Each device has, like I said, 4 games on them, 4 different colors, and you can choose which ones you want. It's interesting. They're only doing those 16 games total, and you have to pay about $50 per one. So you'd have to pay about $200 in order to get all the games. So if you're a really hardcore Sega fan, this sounds like something you'd definitely be interested in. But we've got more details about that at digitaltrends.com. By the way, Sega's 60th anniversary is this year. That's crazy. All right, final trending topic here. Just for those of you that are fans of SpaceX, and in particular the launch for the Crew Dragon capsule that happened over the weekend. Well, there's another launch today. It's not sending people up, but it's sending satellites as part of the Starlink constellation of satellites that they're getting in place to provide broadband internet. Ideally, the goal is worldwide, but they're setting up another batch of satellites later on today. And so just one more in this long line of them. I believe that puts them up over 500 once this one goes up. They're sending these up so rapidly, it's hard to keep track, actually. So there's a lot of them that are up there right now. Let's see. Okay, so they have 420 right now. This will put them up to 480, so almost to 500 of the satellites, of the eventual goal of maybe even up to 30,000. But they are launching again, and of course you always get to see them try to land that nose cone back down as well. And when they release satellites, it's a lot of fun. We'll be having that here, so you can, of course, follow along for all the details on that at digitaltrends.com.
It's now time for the product of the day.
There it is, the product of the day. Something that everybody needs, in my opinion, is some kind of dash cam for your car. I know from experience, it's good to have one. So this is the Garmin Dashcam 65. So a couple of highlights on this: 1080p, 2.0-inch LCD screen. It's got a small GPS-enabled. It's a small GPS-enabled dash camera, so it's really small. I think that's something that's a really nice thing to have when it comes to these. So it's not like taking up your whole windshield there. It's got a 180-degree field of view. It's got voice control. It's got loop recording, which a lot of them have that, but that way it keeps a loop going for a long time. So depending on the memory card you put in there, you can really have a lot of recording in there. It also syncs with your phone. It's got driver alerts, so it even do some sensing as far as with that 180 degrees, it'll let you know, like, hey, there's a car to your right, or you're getting too close to something. So it'll actually help out with some of that stuff too if you want to use it for that. So pretty cool one. And right now it is on sale, so we've got a deal, and we'll have a link there for you that you can follow along to take advantage of this deal. And I'm going to tell you what it is right now. It's $159. So normally it's $249, so you're saving about $90 based on this deal. And just follow the link that we've got on whatever platform you're watching. Type that in there. You can go there, take a look at it, but certainly it comes in handy to have a dash cam. It's one of those things you never know when you're going to need it until you need it, and then you'll be glad you have it. But that's something you can take a look at right there. All right, continuing on here with Digital Trends Live and our live coverage of so many different things that are going on. We've got some great guests that are joining us here today. And up next, we've got Sherrell Dorsey. She's going to be talking about, well, her company, The Plug, which provides in-depth reporting and analysis on the black innovation economy and all kinds of other things that she's got to talk to us about. So we're really excited for that. So I want everybody to stick around. We'll be right back after this with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Again, thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We get to have some great conversations here on this show, and that's why I want to encourage everybody to join us here every single day. We're going to have one of those conversations right now. I'm very excited to welcome to the show Sherrell Dorsey, who is a data journalist, a social entrepreneur, a speaker, a founder of The Plug, and so much more. The titles just go on and on, but she is joining us right now. Sherrell, first off, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yes, thank you so much, Greg. It's really great to be here.
Excited to talk to you about a lot of different things and just get your opinion and your input on so much. But to give everybody a little bit of backstory, I kind of wanted to hear just from you. You know, what was your inspiration for founding The Plug? What brought you to that? What were you trying to bring to light with that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I've worked in tech for most of my career, learned programming and coding in high school, and worked for some really great startups. And one of the challenges in trying to digest tech, right, digesting tech news and all of the news and information it was always bereft of inclusive discussions on who was creating what and who was contributing. And so I didn't actually intend to start a publication. I was just sharing news and information in a daily newsletter, and it kind of spread like wildfire. And so I decided, hey, if people are really excited about this information, it's time that we also add some data and some analysis to it to really understand how Black people in particular and Black investors and startups and ecosystems are contributing to this greater technology future conversation.
Well, I mean, it shows how important that was. That there was a dearth of that, as far as information being shared on that, and diversity has been an issue for tech for a long time, and certainly brought to light even more now. And I just wanted to ask you, your opinion, being involved in this. How do you feel tech companies are responding based on the recent protests, the death of George Floyd, and everything else that's going on with that? How have you seen tech companies responding, and how would you like them to respond?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, my team has just recently done some work around this and some analysis, particularly on how tech companies have been speaking out. It's actually pretty unprecedented, Greg, if we actually look at it, because this is not the first time we've had challenges and outspoken protests on police brutality in this country. But this is the first time that you're seeing tech leaders really step up. And so our team started to see folks like Aaron Levy from Box start to speak out, and not just speak out, but use explicit language on denouncing police brutality, racism, and then making pledges to say, hey, we are going to donate to these particular organizations and do better as a company. And so, the statements are kind of one thing, but we're tracking, and we have this document that has now kind of spread like wildfire, really analyzing and assessing not just what companies are saying, but also what kind of initiatives are they putting forth to ensure that they are creating more equitable workforces, both internally and then externally, as we talk about recruitment or DE&I initiatives or diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives as well.
And that's wonderful. We're taking a look right there, so everybody can follow along with that too. And I love that. That's keeping companies accountable for what they're saying, yeah, and following up with that. Something else that I just want to get your opinion on, that's played a huge role with this, is social media and just how information has been shared on there. How do you feel that has contributed or detracted from what's going on?
I think there's definitely real-time output and outcomes from having this conversation, having access to this data set that we've been building. What we're seeing from people, employees across racial, gender, expertise lines is, listen, they want to see that the companies that they work for or that they build with, be they entrepreneurs using certain products or everyday people using certain apps, they want to know that the individuals that they're supporting and the individual companies that they're supporting, that they're actually truly invested in this fight for racial justice in this country, which has this long history of keeping Black voices out and Black people out. And so we're seeing in real time the feedback, people saying, listen, if my company's on this list, we need to figure out what's going on, what statements we're going to make, and then also what we're going to do about addressing just racial challenges in our own spaces.
Looking at this, from the company standpoint to the individual standpoint, and I know you share a lot of Black success stories through your account, and people who are very successful and entrepreneurs, but for those who are just starting, who are just wanting to get into this and still face, all of this adversity that shouldn't be there, but in reality is, what can they do, or what recommendations do you have for somebody out there who's an entrepreneur who's just getting started? What steps should they follow?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's tons of great resources out there. I'm not the only publication on the market that's specifically reporting and covering on Black innovators. If we look across the spectrum of publications that are being run by women, that are being run by queer, queer people who identify as queer, and just across the board, across the spectrum, if you look for it, you will find it. I think also what's really important is that as we have this public, this public crowdsourced data sheet that we have developed, you can look at how different companies are addressing diversity, equity, inclusion within their workforce. We're linking to those diversity spreadsheets. We're keeping tabs on, well, what percentage of folks are actually in leadership roles and positions that identify as Black. So there's so many different ways that you can kind of look at that early and look at these statements that companies are making. And if you are a new startup, maybe you only have 10 employees right now, you can start at the beginning and say, listen, what is our commitment to ensuring that we have an equitable workforce and we are becoming good and socially responsible corporate citizens, even before we raise that next Series A, or we continue to go on this mass hiring spree. How are we recruiting? what schools are we recruiting from? How are we creating pipelines for opportunity for maybe students that otherwise wouldn't get access to apprenticeships or internship programs? There's so many different checks and balances that can be put in place beyond it. So you don't have to actually backtrack and then try to figure out how to course correct. It should just be embedded in the ethos of your organization. And now is the perfect time to get started if you haven't already started to have that kind of systems thinking approach to what your diversity, equity, inclusion plan looks like.
For people watching and individuals and people who want to get involved to help elevate voices and help fix this and help work towards change to get this to increase diversity, what are some things that they could do as individuals who aren't a part of the entrepreneurship community but just want to help, want to contribute?
Absolutely. I think it all starts at home, right? I think it's also contributing and supporting organizations on the ground that are doing work. It is supporting organizations that are helping to provide resources and opportunity to underserved and underrepresented communities. I think it's kind of easily starting with maybe a Google search, just quite frankly, just like what are the places within my community that I can provide some support systems? Where can I volunteer my time? What kind of talents and skills and resources do I have that I can actually tap into networks and provide opportunities for others? It really, really starts there.
That's great, and it's a great thing that everybody should be thinking about right now. Well, I mean, always, but especially right now. It's never too late to start thinking. For people out there too, I want to direct them to everything that you're doing because, as I said at the beginning, you've got so many different titles and things that you do. Where should we send people to follow along with everything that you've got going on?
Absolutely. I really encourage people to subscribe at tpinsights.com. We have a weekly briefing. I think it's a really great first point to understanding what's happening in the Black innovation economy, who are the startups, the founders, the companies that are really doing incredible things and kind of driving a future forward as part of the larger landscape of tech. And then also just finding out about like opportunities, like jobs, things that you can forward to your friends and your colleagues. And maybe you're not part of the specific demographic, but it's information that you can help to spread throughout your networks and to start having, bold conversations that again, kind of include, that are much more inclusive. So that's tpinsights.com. And, I'm on Twitter at Sherrell_Dorsey, everywhere on the internet. And so, again, just happy to engage.
Sherrell, thank you so much for being with us here today, to share your insights, to share this information, knowledge, let other people know about it, and just everything that you're doing. Really appreciate you being here on Digital Trends Live today.
Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate the invitation.
Sherrell Dorsey, right here on Digital Trends Live. Wow. She has done a lot, and there's more on the way. So tpinsights.com, certainly someplace that we can all go check out and follow along with everything that she just said right there. We'll have this interview up afterward, too, if you want to go back and watch it separately. All right, continuing on here with Digital Trends Live. I know we've got a lot to talk about here on the show, and that's why I appreciate everybody who's joining us. We've got John Velasco on next, our smart home editor, to talk about security cameras and some things that you should be looking for when you're buying them. In particular, he's got some guides for us, so that's coming up next. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler again. Thanks for joining us. Hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're on because we like to keep you informed and have conversations about tech that matters to you. And that's what we're going to do right now. Security cameras are something a lot of us are investing in, but what should we be looking for when it comes to that? Well, John Velasco tests them all out and will help us out right now when it comes to security. John, thank you for being here. Tell us about what this is, what this roundup's all about.
So yeah, a couple of weeks ago, we did a roundup on our website, digitaltrends.com, on some security cameras, specifically focusing on privacy, because as you know, last year, Ring had a lot of issues when it came to hacks. So we were looking at some of the best cameras when it comes to protecting your privacy inside the home. So this specific scorecard that we're looking at here covers pretty much what you want to look for when it comes to owning an indoor camera and to protect your privacy. So quickly, I'm going to list down some of the things you want to look for. So probably the most important thing is going to be two-factor authentication. That's a feature that you want to look for in a security camera because it'll send a unique code to either your email address or your phone number. So in addition to just using your username and password whenever you log into these apps, you'll have that extra layer of security. So that's the first step. Number two is going to be mandatory two-factor authentication. Now, this is interesting because some cameras, not all, offer two-factor authentication, but there are few that actually requires it as a mandatory thing to enable before you could start using that. Now, this is just an extra step, an extra layer of security. So now, in order to use the camera, you got to sign up for two-factor authentication. The next one here is going to be a privacy shutter. Now, I talked about privacy shutters before. They're basically covers for your cameras. So they disable things like the camera and also the microphone. That's something you want to look for in a security camera at home. Now, they basically break down to two kinds of privacy shutters. You have ones that are electronic. So think something that you could remotely access. So you could turn off the camera, turn on. And then there are better ones that use a mechanical shutter. So basically, there's a physical barrier that goes over the camera lens, so you know that it can't see you. And atop that, it'll also mute the microphone. So privacy shutters are very good when it comes to protecting your privacy at the home. So I talked about the difference between the electrical versus the mechanical. My personal preference would be mechanical because there's that physical barrier. And in some instances, you actually hear a tone, a sound, whenever that shutter opens and closes. So even if you're not looking at the camera or the camera's behind you or something, you know when the camera's on or active because of that audible tone. The next thing you want to look at is detection zones because they kind of eliminate redundant notifications. All cameras, I'd say the vast majority of them, will be able to detect motion when you're away. So when you're away and it detects motion, you'll get a notification, whether it's your cat or if it's an intruder. You'll be notified about that. But the nice thing about detection zones is that it'll eliminate some of those redundant notifications. So you don't want to be notified when your cat comes across the screen or within the camera's view, but you do want to get notifications in the event some stranger comes in and starts, going through your home. So these are what detection zones allow you to do. They choose specific areas, let's say the front door. And so if you have your entire living room, camera set up in your living room, you could choose just the front door so that anytime if it detects some sort of motion, it'll notify you there. And here's one unique thing you don't find too often, Greg, in a privacy-centric camera. It's an app lock. So yes, when you have your phone, you run the app to view the live stream, to view the notifications, but there are some services out there that allow you to add an additional layer of protection in addition to two-factor, which is an actual app lock. So now when you run the app on your phone, on your device, it's going to ask you for a PIN code of some sort that you use, and you'll be able to access all your services. And the last thing here you guys want to look for when it comes to protecting your privacy in the home is going to be facial recognition because just like detection zones, it'll reduce the amount of redundant notifications you get when it comes to movement or some sort of, if a cat starts coming in across the screen. So facial recognition definitely helps with that, so that it'll know who people are. Some cameras are pretty sophisticated that they'll be able to recognize faces, so they could tell familiar faces from those that aren't familiar. So whenever it senses an unfamiliar face, it'll start recording right away. So those are the things, Greg, that you want to
Wow.
look for when it comes to privacy.
Those are some great suggestions. I mean, I'm just thinking about even when I got my Ring camera, none of these options were even out, and that wasn't that long ago. So now you've got all of these different things that you can find when it comes to security cameras. And we've got that roundup too at digitaltrends.com, like you said, so people can go through there and analyze what's most important to you, what ones are available, and
Exactly.
what you should be getting. John, dude, thank you so much. As always, you're full of so much knowledge when it comes to this stuff. You help out everybody with this. So follow along digitaltrends.com. And John, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot, Greg. Take care.
John Velasco, our smart home editor, right there. He knows his stuff. All right, coming up next, we all know that the film festivals, regular film festivals, just like so many other things, have been canceled. But there is a great opportunity now to really virtually attend almost all of them, a lot of them, and that's what we're talking about next. Joining us, we're going to have Kara Cusimano, who's the festival director for the Tribeca Film Festival, talking about what they have going on for this with We Are One. Really excited to talk about it. It's up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler again. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button and join the show here every single day. And certainly we like to keep you up to date with what is going on in the world of technology and entertainment. And as we all know, so many things are canceled in person, but film festivals are continuing on in a really incredible way. I'm excited to talk about this. Joining us right now, we have the festival director for the Tribeca Film Festival, Kara Cusimano. Thank you so much for being here. Excited to talk to you about this. Tell us about, I guess to give everybody a little bit of context and really understanding, how has all this affected film festivals up until now?
Yeah, I mean, it's been hugely impactful on our industry. Festivals are all about meeting up together and being in a cinema as a community. So when we were forced to postpone and cancel, so many of us, we really wanted to find a way to still preserve that experience and bring something to the audience and find a way to be together and celebrating film and celebrating storytelling in this time.
And there's so many wonderful film festivals around. I mean, certainly Tribeca being one of those. And I want to know how this all started. So I guess to give everybody context, what we are, to explain what We Are One is, and just the story behind how you're making this work.
Absolutely. So, Tribeca Film Festival was founded after 9/11. We were founded in a moment of crisis when people really needed to be brought together and to find that wonderful sort of communal feeling around film and storytelling. And we felt like we were uniquely positioned in this current crisis to think about that again and think about that in a different way. And what does it mean to have a film festival at this time? And it had to be something that was happening online. So we reached out to YouTube. They felt like such an obvious partner for something like this. They were incredibly supportive of the idea and using their platform for something that was going to inspire people and create change and make people feel part of something. So from there, we reached out to 21 global film festivals, our colleagues in the film festival community, and everybody was on board. We were all going through the same thing. Our audiences are all going through the same thing. And it just felt really organic and natural. And the outpouring of support from the festivals and the filmmakers and the audiences has been so inspiring.
I mean, I think it's amazing just for myself personally because, you know, for most people, there's no way you could attend all of these film festivals, even if you wanted to. It'd be very difficult, but now it's all going to be there. So it is a unique opportunity, you know, since we can't all get together to watch these. And to give everybody a little bit of context, too, as far as what's involved, can you talk about the breadth of films and what people can engage in with this?
Totally. So it's 100 films spread out over 10 days. They'll be premiering online on YouTube at specific times. So you have that festival experience of arriving at a very specific moment for the premiere. Many times the filmmakers have introduced their films or they're in the chat kind of talking about what you're experiencing. And then after something has premiered, it will be available for 7 days to stream through YouTube. So each festival curated about 5 hours of different programming, talks, features, shorts, VR in many cases from their festivals that really spoke to their audiences and their identity as a festival, but also the global audience that is now going to be discovering this through YouTube. And we felt like that cross-pollination was really exciting to have something that was global and unrestricted for any audiences, bringing the festival audience online and bringing that YouTube audience into the film festival experience too.
That's so cool just to be a part of that and just to have that, you know, despite everything going on, still be able to get that experience out of it. For you, you know, talking about this, and you mentioned there's so many different storytellers and some of the people that are introducing him. And I don't know if you've seen all of them yet that are part of this or if that's even possible with all of these films. But are there any favorites that have stood out for you that you'd want to share with everybody?
Yeah, there's a lot of really exciting stuff. It was fun for me to discover as an audience member as well, because every festival was kind of bringing their own features. So I was discovering things too. I think you should check out the short films. There's some incredible pieces from DreamWorks Animation that they've shared with us through the Annecy Animation Festival. On the Tribeca side, as Tribeca Film Festival, we programmed an amazing lineup of shorts, including a film Toto that I think is really special, and several of our award winners. Crew Raw and No More Wings were two films that would have played at Tribeca this year, along with Toto, and went on to win our jury prizes. So they're now available to screen. There's some music pieces I think are great. Motorcycle Drive By is a short doc about Third Eye Blind. Rude Boy is a feature doc about Trojan Records. So there's a lot to discover, and I would tune into some of the talks too. Today we have Bong Joon-ho premiering and Zhang Ziyi. So some of the filmmaker conversations have been really exciting to discover as well.
That trailer for Toto just sold me on that. I have to watch that now. So talking about, you know, how this is all working out and with everybody coming together like this, and you know, we are still in the middle of a pandemic. Clearly there's so many different unknowns, but how do you see film festivals transitioning forward and continuing on? Is it going to be changing to more something like this, or can we go back to that traditional film festival experience? How do you see this evolving?
There's a lot of uncertainty right now because we don't know exactly when we'll be able to go back into the theaters and people will feel comfortable seeing films, and the filmmakers will be comfortable traveling around the world. So I think we're all figuring it out, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of these virtual innovations continue, and festivals embrace global audiences, online audiences, and ways that we can be translating that experience in new ways. But I do hope that sooner rather than later we will all be back in the movie theater together. That's the magical experience that we all love, that makes us do this for a living. So we're feeling that loss right now, and we hope that that We Are One is kind of filling the void for people in the meantime.
It definitely is. I mean, it's a really, really cool thing that you got together. I can only imagine coordinating that many different people and festivals to all come together like this has got to be a tremendous challenge, let alone a regular film festival is a challenge. But that's a lot, and you've made it happen, and it's just so cool. So I want to remind everybody, We Are One Global Film Festival. Everybody can go there. So weareoneglobalfestival.com. Is that the best website to send everybody to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, Kara, thank you so much for being here with us. That was really exciting to talk about all of this. Kara Cusimano right here on Digital Trends Live, talking about that, the We Are One Global Film Festival. Really exciting. I can't wait to check that out. And I really do want to see that Toto movie. Whatever the robot clown thing was that was in that, I am fascinated by that already and terrified. All right, coming up, we've got TBD. Yes, it is Wednesday. It's time for TBD. Adrian Warner, Jess Serba going to be presenting a topic. What is it? Well, that's TBD. You got to stick around to find out. Back right after this with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button. Join the show here every single week. But it is Wednesday, which means it's time for TBD. What does it stand for? I don't know. Let's find out together. Joining us, we have Jess Serba. Jess, hello. How are you doing over there?
Hey, Greg. I'm wonderful. Well, I'm hanging in there. How about yourself?
Doing the same. Doing the same. Excited to talk about whatever we're going to be bringing up here today. We also have, of course, Adrienne Warner. Hello, Adrienne.
Hi, Greg. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. So what are we talking about today? What's TBD?
Well, as you know, TBD stands for something different each week, and we're really, really excited for this week's topic, which we're calling Traveling Beyond Dirt, because we're going to be talking about the next steps for the astronauts that just went up to space to the International Space Station last Saturday, arrived there on Sunday, and what they're going to be doing while they're up there. So let me ask first, Greg, would you go to space?
Oh, 100% yes. 1,000 times. I would go right now. If they told me to hop on a plane right now, yeah, I would go. Definitely.
Yeah, I really can't blame them for leaving Earth and going and hanging out in space right now. It is a really awesome time and obviously a really historic mission for, thousands of reasons. Just to kind of recap what happened. So the astronauts, Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken, arrived safely at the International Space Station on Sunday after successfully completing the launch and the docking stages of SpaceX's historic Demo 2 mission. And, this marks a bunch of firsts. It's the first crewed launch from U.S. soil since the end of the Space Shuttle program in 2011. And since then, NASA astronauts have been forced to buy seats on Russian rockets to get to space. So it's also the first time that a U.S. company and a private company has flown astronauts to orbit. So SpaceX, obviously making historic first there as well. And having SpaceX as a mean of space travel to NASA means, future missions will be a lot cheaper. And of course, kind of a renewed sense of national pride for the US. So this historic mission, keep saying historic because it's really historic, took 19 hours. So, just like a casual trip to New Zealand or whatever. And they successfully docked at the International Space Station. And now Hurley and Behnken are going to be carrying out experiments to help scientists understand human physiology and how it responds to, long duration life in microgravity. They're also going to be testing life support systems for human exploration of deep space. And, the ISS in general is a huge place for testing, technologies needed for humans to venture out into deep space. So in the future, that's going to be a return to the moon. And in the farther future, that's going to be an exploration to Mars, which is super exciting to think about that we're going to see that in our lifetime. So this is kind of one small step for man, but it's also one giant leap for SpaceX. See what I did there? Yes, as a demo mission, sorry, I had to give myself a pat on the back. So SpaceX is going to be monitoring the Crew Dragon's performance in space. And after the mission is complete, after 1 to 3 months, astronauts are going to board the Crew Dragon, and then it will autonomously undock and depart the International Space Station. It'll splash down in Florida. It's going to be transported back to Cape Canaveral. And then once this is all complete, and if it is successful, NASA's Commercial Space Crew Program will certify the Crew Dragon for operational long duration missions to space and the space station. So this really lays the groundwork for future exploration. And like I said, back to the moon in 2024. And after that, Mars. So the future of moon exploration really hinges on the success of all of this. And I'm going to let Jess talk more about our favorite subject, the moon.
Yeah, so basically, well, first of all, the moon is our favorite subject for sure.
It really is.
So, right. So what happens next, right? The moon. This is called Project Artemis. And Project Artemis is a lunar exploration program. The name comes from Greek mythology. Artemis was the twin sister of Apollo and goddess of the moon. So very poetic there to begin with. The plan is to have our astronauts step foot where no human has stepped before, which is the moon's south pole. The plan is to have, NASA is basically committing to landing American astronauts, specifically and very importantly, including the first woman and the next man on the moon by 2024. They'll collaborate with commercial and international partners with the goal of establishing sustainable lunar exploration by 2028, which is super exciting. This collaboration is really important because NASA does need the innovation of the private sector in that regard. They say, and I quote, "We will build sustainable elements on and around the moon that allow our robots and astronauts to explore more and conduct more science than has ever been conducted before. So really big goals, really big dreams, really exciting. They will work with private companies to deliver instruments and technology to the lunar surface. Then the spaceship Gateway will be in orbit around the moon that will support the human mission, sort of as like an orbiting touch point, if you will. And then human landers will actually go take astronauts down to the surface of the moon and back up. And then there's the NASA's Space Launch System rocket, which was specifically designed to send astronauts to deep space, as well as the Orion spacecraft, which will be the third part, which is actually what transports the astronauts to and from Earth, where they'll be docking at the Gateway. The plans are the first mission will be no crew. It's just kind of the systems like learning to work together, making sure that they can. The second is planned to be like a flight test, which will take the astronauts around the moon. And then the third would actually take them to the Gateway to talk and continue their missions from there. So what else are we going to do up there, right? First, we will find and use water and other critical resources that we would need for long-term exploration purposes. And then a lot of investigation. You know, there's a lot that we don't know. The main thing is to run experiments and test equipment and then develop technologies and practices that can help us build self-sustaining outposts away from Earth. Very specifically, as we all know, on Mars. That is what the main goal here at this point. On the moon, astronauts are just 3 days from home. So it's basically kind of the training grounds before sending astronauts on missions to Mars, which can take up to 3 years round trip. So we definitely want to get the practice in, but it's such an exciting first step to even see this on the horizon, I think.
That is awesome. I mean, 3 years on traveling with the same people, that could get real dicey. Like that's where I see the issue. I want to visit the moon. I don't know if I want to live with everybody up there or on Mars, but still, it's awesome to see where it's going. I love space, and I will go to space right now. I just want to reiterate that again. I know beyond this too, also as part of TBD, we have Kick Stop It, where you two decide or showcase a Kickstarter or crowdfunded project that you think we should decide on.
That's right. We're going to take a look at the wild world of crowdfunding, and this week is no different. We are taking a look at a product called the Hug Phones. And these are headphones that are built into a teddy bear, and they're designed, primarily for kids, very sweetly so to, if they're scared of traveling or something like that, to kind of give them a sense of comfort. I think it's kind of goofy, though, to be traveling around with a teddy bear on your head. And I can only imagine a bunch of mangled teddy bears in the future with kids trying to rip the headphones out of the actual teddy bears. So this actually creates a little bit of a nightmare scenario for me. Plus, it's just isn't the point of a teddy bear to hug and not sit on your head? I don't know. I find it silly.
Right,
yeah.
Greg, what do you think? What are your feelings? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if the option was travel anywhere right now, but you have to wear that, I will wear that. I don't care because I just want to go anywhere.
Fair.
I just want to get out of the house. But the other thing is, I'm imagining traveling with that and say some kid in front of you on a plane. This is where my mind goes to instantly. You're gonna have to stare at the back of that the entire time while you're looking at the back of this giant bear in front of you.
Right. Well, let me tell you where my brain goes. I feel like I love to have noise canceling headphones, but I feel like I always end up falling asleep against the side of the plane, and then it digs into my head or something goes awry. So these are super padded, and plus the extra it's like a neck pillow. It's everything in one.
That's fair.
Yeah. Although it's kind of looks like
it
it's strangling you too at the same time.
Yes,
it does. Actually, I will say too, for kids though, they do have kind of the settings as well, just so they're not blasting it. Basically, it's kind of it won't allow it to go over a certain sound amount. So
decibels.
There it is. Yes.
I imagine a whole family wearing these approaching you on a plane, and you're like, oh no.
Yes, 100%. That's going to be a family experience, and I will end up sitting right behind them the entire time. That
you
is what
will
happen
absolutely.
All right. Well, so do we kickstart it or kickstop it? Adrian, what do you think?
I'm kick-stopping it because these terrify me. I'm all for teddy bears. I'm all for headphones. The 2-in-1, not my thing.
Yeah. All right, Jess, what about you?
I'm kickstarting it. I like it. It looks cozy. I'll give it a shot. I will say too, it is overfunded. Like it has been fully funded. So there are other people that feel the same way.
I mean, for me, like I said, if it meant I can travel anywhere, I will kickstart it. If that does anything for me, I'll do it. So I'll pay whatever
Fair
the price. All right, well, there it is. That is Kickstop It as part of TBD every week. And there's one final thing we have here for TBD. Adrian,
right.
I'll let you introduce this.
Yes, let's close out on some Charlie Cam. Charlie's taken a much-needed nap in his favorite position. So enjoy.
He looks like one of the stuffed animals.
Done yourself.
Isn't it fantastic?
I mean, just throw a couple of speakers on him and just throw him around your neck. There you go.
That's right. Super comfortable. I would kickstart that.
Yeah, absolutely. No questions asked.
All right, Adrian, Jess, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, TBD right here every Wednesday. And we have so many different things that we talk about here every single week. I want to say thank you to everybody who joins us here on Digital Trends Live. It's always fun sharing this with you, talking about technology, talking about headlines, talking about news, talking about interviews. And coming up tomorrow, we've got Lisa Marie Segarra, who's our gaming editor, to talk about what's going on in the world of gaming, and a whole bunch of amazing guests. So you're going to want to join us there. Oh, and thank you. They're on LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us as well. So whatever platform you're on, hit subscribe. That way you get the notification when we go live, which is every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And that's when I'll see you right back here tomorrow with another edition of Digital Trends Live.